England.
No.
Yeah. I've had it for nearly 10 years, and I just love it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So
Please find somewhere comfortable and sit.
Hi. Okay.
Share some wonderful experiences. Get to know yourselves. And if you haven't registered, if you didn't register online, please, we have a paper there where you can put your details. And we can show you a whole lot about that. That it's not just the black person who is miseducated, but that the whole world is miseducated. Because we believe that black history is world history. And so if black history is not taught, and then that means that we miss out, we lose out on a huge part of our history. So really, Black History Month is really for us to identify. George Washington Carver and Percy Levin, Julian and others had preceded me in science. So he was naming others who had preceded him in science. He said, but nobody ever published their accomplishments. And therefore many of their minority students didn't know that they had a future in science because they figured it was something that was not for them. So it's not that they don't exist, they were not publicized. And so that's why we do Black History Month. And if you hear me today, if you take anything out from here, I'm asking everybody to write. Whether you're writing on Twitter or X, whether you're writing on LinkedIn, whether you're writing on Facebook, let's start writing. Whether you can be bold enough to write an academic article, write. Whether you can be bold enough to write a blog, write. Because AI is going to publish rubbish, it's garbage in, garbage out. And if it's only something that educates the system, but we do that by the information we put in there. So I know we've come here to have some fun, but for me this is more than fun, this is life. This is life. This is life. Racism is connected to this. When we don't understand the value of the black person, that's why racism exists. If we actually knew that the black population is a massive contribution to the... Do you know that by 2040, 2050, the youngest population will be from Africa? And I'm telling them now that, if we don't develop a better relationship with the African continent, we will be getting them from there here, but they will not be coming enslaved, they will be coming as expatriates. Because we would need a younger workforce. This is not me saying, it's the United Nations. So when we talk about people who are black, we call them minorities. Actually, they are not minorities. They are minoritized groups. They are the major population. They are not minorities. I know you cannot believe that, when we look at Ireland and we look at some nations and we see the whiteness of the higher echelons of society, you might actually think that, but it's not true. Look at the world population. They are minoritized groups. And so our relationship with them is wrong and we need to start correcting it. Even something as little as the Mercator map that we use is wrong. Africa is not a tiny bit at the bottom of the equator. You can feed the whole of Europe, North America, China into the landmass of Africa. But when you look at the Mercator map, it deceived us into something else. And even while the whole world knows it's not correct, we're still using it. So that's why you and I have to start writing. We can't keep responding to the right. The right says, no, and then say, no, this is not true. Well, then we're playing catch up. We can't keep playing catch up. And I'm not just talking to black people, I'm talking to every one of us, researchers, academics, teachers, every one of you, every one of us. The only reason we could crack COVID was because everybody got involved with COVID. Whether you had COVID or not, you did something. And I'm saying that for us to crack racism, for us to crack stereotypes, the negative, the pejorative treatment of people who are not white, we all need to get involved. The civil rights movement functioned effectively because everybody was involved. Now, Dr. Lambert, you need to drag me. Stop getting up. But I want to quickly show you some things for just some of us who don't know. I got a question this morning. I posted. When I post on X, I don't like going to X because I have real proper trolls there. On LinkedIn is a bit fine, but on X, I have people who love me. They are trolls on X. They challenge everything I say. And I posted and she was like, when did black people start coming to Ireland? So I'm just going to show us a few. So Sarah Parker Redmond, she was a physician, anti-slavery activist. She visited between Ireland, Scotland, and England. It's 1920. I'm not saying 2020. I'm saying 1850. Google it, and you will find it. And she's a black woman, an abolitionist. She was lecturing between Ireland, England, and Scotland. What about Frederick Douglass? I think we all know this. He was in Ireland, over 175 years ago. I think 2 years we had a big celebration when it was 175 years that Frederick Douglass, an abolitionist, a black person, we jokingly call him the Black O'Connor. But he was in Ireland. He was lecturing for about 3 months. What about, they call her the Crow, the Crow Street Theatre. She was over there, Rachel Baptiste. Rachel Baptiste, was in 1751. She was in Ireland, and she was, she was a singer. She did songs by Handel, and she did songs in Ireland, 1751. So when they tell you black people are new here, no, we're not strange. I mean, Jude, wave your hand. Jude, yeah. Jude is not a visitor. You don't integrate Jude. Jude is, full-fledged Irish born, Irish living. Have you ever even left Ireland, Jude? So when they tell you, immigration of black people are new 20 years, no. Where is Ima? And Ima's mom is here, Ima was born in Ireland. You know what I mean? But Phil Lynott, everybody knows Phil Lynott? Irish born, And we have some young and upcoming young musicians now, CeeLo, Tolu, and McCabe, Dennis China, but we have Phil Lynott, and we have that his popular statue there in Dublin. So it's not just a statue for decoration. He actually is Irish and he's so proud of his Irish ancestry. What about sports? We talk about Paul McGrath, in football, and he's Irish, so he's not 20 years here. My son is there, he's, over 20 years, he was born here. Do you know what I mean? So we have people like Paul McGrath, or we have Joey Cunningham. He was the first black person to play in Crow Park. And they were all born here. And we see today, we see how sports have developed. Now we have people like, Rashida Adeleke, the fastest Irish woman. She's black Irish. And she's the fastest in 100 meters, 200, 300, 400. And so imagine if that diversity was not there, we would be losing. So when we celebrate Black history is not for black people, it's for every one of us. It's all our history. And I just want you to listen when Emmanuel Kulu begins to talk. You can get every color from black. You can't get any color from white. It's only black that can give you every color. Every color can come out of black. So that begins to even tell us, even if we don't understand scientifically. And this is Christian Buckley. Her son is not here, through clothes and through a clothing line that he has. But Christian Buckley, born in Ireland as well, and did a lot of work on activism, in Ireland. Do you know that in the 70s and in the 80s, anybody know that in the 70s we had a big black basketball team in Ireland? Raise your hand if you knew. That we had a big black basketball team in Ireland. Who knew? Okay, in Jude, yeah. You understand? We had a big black team, big ginormous, black African Americans who were playing in the bingo halls. They were packing out the bingo halls in the 70s and in the 80s in Ireland. When I saw it, there's a documentary called With God Daily. And when I saw that documentary, I saw white people when they won the match. I saw white people, white Irish brothers. They carried the black brother on their shoulders. Like, no, we can't be. It was. And how are we so far from that now? And that what we have is competition. And we forget that we have a common struggle. It was no Irish, no blacks. Together. In the Caribbean, we were at the bottom together. In the Americas, we were at the bottom together. So we have a common struggle. So our black history is all our history. I'm going to stop there because I can see them. They're like, oh, Ebun, stop. Okay, so that's me go for now. I just want to charge us up to say, black history is all our history. Black people have been in Ireland for a long time. We're not strangers. We're not visitors. It's not our country. You just keep me out of that hour. I'm part of the hour just in case. So it's our country. Thank you all so much. So sit down, relax, and have a wonderful afternoon.
To introduce the artillery dancer. A round of applause for the artillery dancer! I know we're supposed to do this on the stage, but maybe we'll bring them back again before the close of the program to have them perform on the stage. So I guess of course behind can have a good view.
Do you want to person?
All right. Yeah. So our next act.
Will they be finishing?
website. But we thought we'd decide to do a Black History Month after party. And so that's going to be on the 2nd of November at the Cheers in Leafy Valley. So we'll keep talking about it as we continue the program. Is that okay? So now I am going to welcome Alex and Sunday as they do a little short video about Black History Month. A round of applause for Alex and Sunday.
Shines light on the extraordinary achievements of black individuals across time. From Martin Luther King Jr. to Rosa Parks, these trailblazers fought for equality and justice, their courage inspiring generations and transforming society. Their legacy reminds us that change is always possible, and it encourages each of us to stand up for what is right. Black History Month is a time of celebration. In Ireland and the UK, it's observed from October 1st to the 31st. In the United States and Canada, this month is dedicated to recognizing the struggles and contributions of black individuals throughout history. Figures like Sarah Parker Redmond and Frederick Douglass visited Ireland in the 19th century to fight against slavery and promote abolition. Their stories, and many more, remind us of the role black individuals have played in shaping the world we live in today. But understanding black history isn't just about looking back. It's about addressing the injustices that persist today. Learning about the history of segregation, denial of education and the cultural erasure faced by black communities opens the door to empathy and progress. In Ireland, steps can be taken to increase awareness. Schools can teach about influential black figures. Communities can hold workshops and discussions, and we can all support black art, literature, and culture. By coming together, Ireland can work towards a deeper understanding of black history, fostering a more inclusive and just society for everyone. Black history is human history. It deserves recognition, celebration, and above all, respect. Let's continue to learn, to share, and to embrace the stories that shape our collective future. Celebrate Black History Month. Learn, share, and build a more inclusive world.
We are coming to one of the big highlights of the event, and we'll be listening to a talk soon. Dr. will be introducing the speaker, and I know you'll be, this talk is something that I'm sure we all will enjoy, and we're all looking forward to the great speaker. Please put your hands together for Dr. Ebun as she introduces. Hi, I'm back up again. Have you enjoyed the day so far? I'm like, you should sing that song. You know, I was digging it at the back there, like, okay, come on now, I can do this. Look, you know, so we're coming to part of the highlight of the day. Everybody is a highlight, you know, and it's so wonderful to see our young children, you know, dancing up here, and to see the saxophone being played up here, you know, and that's really wonderful. We miss one of our young kids, Afro Kids. She couldn't make it, but, you know, we have our speaker all the way from the United States, from Buffalo, you know, and United States, Emmanuel Kulu, he's an African historian. I mean, like, you know, I followed him on LinkedIn, so if you don't follow him already, take out your phone, look for him on LinkedIn and follow him. That's one thing you can do for the month of October for Black History. In fact, the day immediately he came, which is got straight from the airport, went to DKIT, did a talk there. We were at Trinity College and he did a talk there today and is here with us. So he has a wonderful talk. Please let's put our hands together as we welcome Emmanuel Kulu to the stand.
You see, the thing about Black history that we need to understand is every piece of the puzzle is important. Slavery was important, but the ancient kings, queens, scholars, master builders, architects, physicians of ancient Africa are just as important. You see, every piece matters, but it doesn't particularly matter until they all come together into a whole picture. So today we're going to look at that whole picture. We're going to be briefly starting with myself. I'm a TEDx speaker, African historian. I've been doing this for the last 15 years, going abroad to the US, to the UK, to Mama Africa, teaching about the miseducation of African history. I was seen in Forbes. I'm a best-selling author of I, Black Pharaoh, Rise to Power, and I'm the founder and CEO of Ancient African Antiquities Research Institute of America. Anybody know who this man is? Say Ashe. Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey once said that people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree with no root. Now, if you think about a tree with no root, let's just talk about a tree that was mulched and planted into the ground. Now, compare that tree to a tree that's been implanted in the ground with that tree deeply rooted in the soil for years. So this is what Marcus Garvey was talking about. In order for us to know who we truly are, we don't want to be that tree newly planted. We want to be that tree deeply rooted into our history. So that brings us to the Sankofa. The Sankofa represents a bird in the York tribe, or the Akani people. And that bird looks back. It says, look back and fetch it. Look back at your past successes. Look back at your past failures. Learn from both of them in order to move forward into a better future. President Richard Nixon, he once said, the American people will not believe anything unless they see this on television. And now we can see it right on our cell phones too, right? Okay? So information has become widespread because of the internet. But what are they saying about Africa? This is the image that we see of Africa. Does this make anyone want to go to Africa who's not from there? You can say yes or no. No. But anyone who's from Africa, no, this is not all of Africa. Can anyone in the audience take a guess where this place is? This is in the United States. That's a hint.
We're watching him so that I don't miss this space. We should follow it.
No.
Yeah, but
Stop.
TV. Also have to look at the TV because he's talking about the TV.
Those people frequently visit Miami, Florida. Now, a lot of Miami right here. So that image that we just saw, if they tell you this is Africa, no one wants to go there. If they tell you this is Miami, no one wants to go there. But this is not what they're telling you Miami is. You see the difference here? Here's another thing they're telling us about African history. That the black man started in slavery. Oh, we're going to find out so much different today. Eurocentrism versus Afrocentrism. Eurocentrism is the distorted tendencies to interpret the history and culture of African people and Asian people from a European perspective. Afrocentrism is basically saying that all people come from Africa. Which one sounds more?
The African women have produced more women rulers than anywhere else in world history. So we know it's possible. Right in the United States right now, there's a woman trying to be president of the United States. It hasn't happened just yet, but African women were sitting on the throne before any women liberation movements. You may be seated. Okay, so let's start right there in the beginning. A lot of people love to hear about ancient Egypt. But did you know that ancient Egypt was a black civilization? 3200 BC. The civilization was not called Egypt. It was 3,000 years of black African kings and queens. And you can see the faces with their stereotypical Negroid features. Let's look at an eye exam here. Now, many people will tell you that ancient Egypt was something other than African, whether it be Middle Eastern or European. But we're going to get to the bottom of that today. Use your eyes. Does this look like African people to you? These are found in the temple in the Luxor Museum, the Museum of Luxor and the museum in Cairo. of African people and African sculptures. The first pharaoh of Egypt, Narmer-Menes, you can see his features are very Africoid features, the nose. And when you see this, we're going to go through this, but you're going to see that a lot of noses have been removed with these Egyptian sculptures. Queen Tiye, this is the grandmother of King Tut. You've heard of all the expeditions of King Tut coming here and there. Well, this is his grandmother. As you see here, she has her afro out. And now on the other side, she has her dreads and her braids. Typical African hairstyles. Now, here's something I want you to see here. At the bottom of the screen here, you can see that the ancient Egyptians had paint, dye, that have lasted over 3,000 years. And you can see the different groups of people at the bottom of the screen here. You have your Indo-European, you have your African, you have your Asiatics, and you have your Semites. And they're all sitting below the feet of the king, who was an African. This is the depiction of Amenhotep III and his wife, Queen Tiye. And you can see them here on the side as well, with his afro out and her afro out as well. Anybody ever heard of Akhenaten? Raise your hand. Akhenaten and Nefertiti? Raise your hand if you ever heard of them. AI, we talked about yesterday how AI has paid a contribution to racism. But this AI architect actually put out what they would have looked like, and here's a depiction of what they would have looked like. King Tut, he has many images of himself, but when we watch the movies depicted of King Tut, he doesn't look like an African. But the depiction that he made of himself show he's clearly an African man. Hatshepsut, this woman, ruled the known world for 25 years. To me, this is the greatest queen pharaoh of Egypt. She built the Desru, or the Holy of Holies. And as you can see, she's an African woman. Tutmos III, another one. This one is very important. This is Imhotep, the great vizier. In fact, this man is the father of medicine. And when you see here on the screen, in the library of Imhotep to study medicine. So Hippocrates, who calls himself the father of medicine, actually learned from Imhotep, this great ancient African scholar. Again, you can see in the Luxor Museum, the Egyptians, how they depicted themselves, as well as the Kushites, the modern day people of Sudan. Do I have any Sudanese brothers and sisters in here? Or anybody of Sudanese descent? Or Senegal? Okay? These are the descendants of the Kushite Empire. Constantine the Volney, when he visited the Sphinx, he said, just think, the very race of black men today subject to our spell is the very race that we owe arts, science, and even our use of speech. Yes, this is what he said when he beheld the Sphinx, when it still had color on its face, the brown color that was on it, and also the yellow and blue headdress. This is a book that I would like everyone to check out by Sheikh Anta Diop, a great Senegalese professor who brought light to the ancient African origins of humanity, African origins of civilization, myth or reality. Please go get this book. We're going to watch a quick video about how an Asian came to know his African origin.
Chinese come
first of all men, saying that this civilization was the first, even before ancient Egypt, ancient Kush was the first civilization. We talked about those great African queens, right? Kandaka Imani Reyes is a name that you need to know. This woman went toe-to-toe with Augustus Caesar in the Roman Empire, saving her people from taxation and colonization. She lost her husband, in the war. She lost her son in the war, and she lost her eye. She is known as the one-eyed queen. But you know what she did do? She saved her people from Roman colonization, forcing the Romans to have a peace treaty. This African woman warrior. Let's give a round of applause for Kandaka Imani Reyes. What about Africans outside of Africa? Septimius Severus, actually an African Roman ruler, an emperor in Rome. We're not going to go too much into Septimius Severus, but he was also a great war general who became the emperor of Rome. And you raise your hand if you ever heard of the Moors. Raise your hand if you heard of the Black Moors in Spain. They ruled from 700. Africans didn't know how to be medalists. But this is 18 different medals that went into this, and you can see this is why this is in the British Museum to this very day, from the 14th century. A lot of times when we hear about Africa, they're promoting mud huts and tribal areas, so to speak, as if Africans had no civilization. Ebun Castle is proof of some of the mega civilizations that were built in the mega architecture that was done in ancient Africa. The Axum Empire, 4th century Christian church. We hear the stories that Europeans brought the Bible to Africa. This is the 4th century, before the King James Bible was compiled. 4th century AD, ancient Africans knew about the scriptures. Raise your hand if you heard of Mansa Musa. All right, Mansa Musa. All right, richest man that ever lived in the AD period. All right, today Guinea, Senegal, Mauritania, and Gambia is the very land known as Timbuktu at that time. The Kingdom of Mali built some of the first universities. And in this hand of Mansa Musa, he's holding a solid gold globe. 13th century. 100 years before Columbus sailed to America. But you see what he's holding? A globe, a sphere. So he understood that the world was a sphere. Right? While Columbus thought that the world was what? Flat. Okay? 100 years, these ancient Africans understood these things. Mansa Musa also, he traveled from Mali all the way to Mecca. But he stopped in Egypt because he believed that Egypt was the center of knowledge. So he gave away millions of dollars in gold. And he ended up bankrupting Egypt because they couldn't exchange the exact same value. Mansa Musa, as much credit as we want to give him, he is responsible for making Europe and the Arab nations more aware of the wealth that was in Central Africa. You ever heard of the Wakanda warriors? They existed, the Dahomey Amazons, all right, an all-women army, and this is not the only one, but this is where they actually got that film from, okay? These women warriors, sometimes if you watch some films, and you see these ancient African Amazon women, they actually existed. Anybody ever seen this movie? Raise your hand. Shaka Zulu, 1986. Shaka Zulu, yes. I'm actually a descendant of the Zulu tribe. You hear my name, Kulu? It is descended from the Zulu tribe. And Shaka Zulu revolutionized warfare, where he created the bull horns formation, where he would encircle the enemy and enclose on them, and his warfare tactics are still used to this very day. He created the Nkwa stabbing spear. And what does the Ikwa mean? As the spear is coming into the side of the enemy, as he takes it out, it says Ikwa. So that's where Ikwa came from, invented by King Shaka. The great ruins of the great Zimbabwe, the Kamani ruins, 13th century. So when they say Africans were only able to build mud huts, clearly we've seen several examples of monumental architectural constructions by African people. In the 8th century, the Kilwa Kisiwani of Tanzania. Again, one of the most powerful settlements of the Swahili speakers. And you can see here an ancient mosque of the 8th century. Ancient Congo, where you find your diamonds, your rubber, your gold, your copper, your cobalt that we put in our cell phones that bounce off the satellites comes from the Congo. You can see the ancient ruins of Queen Nzinga. I saw a book over there with my sister over there for Queen Nzinga, so make sure y'all pick up that book. So many people may be asking you, what happened? All of this great stuff that happened in Africa. Well, 1884 and 1885, the scramble for Africa began. The plan to divide and conquer Africans forever. So the cities that you know, the countries that you see today, are made up countries by each one of these people who sat at this table. Each one of these groups, whether it be the Spaniards, thousands of years ago. Now, you think about that, you say, well, we all got different colors and hair textures. How could we all have come out of Africa? In just one generation, as a person who moves away from the equator, their skin color can become lighter in just one generation. Their hair texture can adapt also to the region that they live in. Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, he is the author of Africans who came before Columbus. And he said the only difference between people is heat and ice. That's it. That's the only difference, is the region that we have adapted to. But the original comes from the black. And out of the black woman produces the mitochondrial DNA that can produce all the quote-unquote racists of the world. Research that on your own. Louis Leakey said, the past clearly shows upon searching for the origin of humanity, he went to East Africa and he found what he called the first woman, that they called Lucy. He said, we have a common origin, that the difference in race, color, and creed are simply superficial. So this thing that we call race, it's not a real thing. It's not a real thing. And here's what you see, the out of Africa theory from there. Now, if you don't believe the science, perhaps you would believe what the scripture says, whether it be the Quran or the Bible or any other Abrahamic religion. The first mega civilization, where Moses was. Can somebody scream it out for me? Where was Moses at? We mentioned it earlier. He was in Egypt. Where was Jesus called out of? Say it, same place. Egypt, yes. He was called out of the same place. The first mega civilization known to mankind was out of Africa. So whether we believe in science, the Bible, the Quran, biology, they all say we come out of Africa. Let's talk about some of the contributions of Africans that we see in the world today. As you can see here, the Oscars even came from the ancient Egyptian god Ptah. Some of the ancient African artifacts that you can find in the British and French Museum, many Africans have been really fighting hard to try to get their artifacts back to Africa. Unfortunately, the British say, if we give you back your artifacts, half of this whole section would be gone. So this is a fight that continues to this day. We just mentioned the African resources, the coltan, the cobalt, the diamonds, the gold, the silver, everything that the crude oil, the rubber, the ivory, the whole world comes out would suffer. In fact, every thriving nation in the world relies on its African exploitation. Every thriving nation. I advise you also to check out this book, They Came Before Columbus because what it talks about is how Africans were circumnavigating the globe and even coming to America far before Columbus did. Okay? And they would have used what they called the Benguela Current or the Canary Current to come straight from the coast of West Africa right into South America, easily. Evidence of this, the all-black heads in South America clearly shows that stereotypical Africoid feature. The Ashango bone talks about the first ancient calculator. Please look up this Ashango bone of Zaire, modern-day Congo, and it will really show you how ancient Africans were far more advanced in mathematics and science before the things that we created. The White House that we see today comes from ancient Egypt, which was called the Hej-Het-Haru. The Hej-Het-Haru represented the White House of Haru, which was a god in Egypt. And we can see the same hands that built the pyramids also built the White House. When you go to any downtown, you're seeing these obelisks, right? You see them all over the cities. You're looking at African history. Pyramids all over the world. Pyramids in South America. Only 1% different, 0.1% different from the ones that are in Africa. Mount Rushmore even resembles Abu Simbel, the pharaoh's faces. The falcon of ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt in the Great Seal of the United States, you can see it's the same, just repackaged and remanufactured. Look at the headdress that the Pope wears. Doesn't that look like the Horus headdress of the pharaohs of ancient times? Did you know who the Pope actually bows down to in the Vatican? Research the Black Madonna and this child. If you go to the Cairo Museum, you will find the first ever depiction of Jesus Christ and his 12 apostles. The first ever depiction found in modern day Ethiopia. And as you can see, there are people of color. And this is in the Cairo Museum to this very day. Cairo Museum, Egypt, if you would like to see this. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention African Americans and their achievements. The air conditioner was created by a black man. The almanac, the auto cutoff switch, the auto... Black History
Thank you everyone for having me. Thank you. Happy Black History Month.
A round of applause for Mr. Emmanuel Kulu! Thank you so much. I'm actually surprised you didn't bring your books though, Mr. Emmanuel Kulu. Your books, you didn't bring your books? Did you bring them?
Yes, I did bring them, but I will next time I come.
Okay. And if you don't already follow Emmanuel Kulu on LinkedIn, I really don't know what you're doing. Okay? And what were you guys thinking that Mr. Emmanuel Kulu has been connecting with his roots and he's been eating a goosey soup and all the rest. Is that right, Mr. Emmanuel Kulu? So I'm getting your attention, Mr. Emmanuel Kulu. Hello. Mr. Kulu. Is it true you have been eating a goosey soup and the all rest? Can I just see this know where that came from? Okay. All right, listen. We're going to do...
have you here. Delighted to have you here. Thank you so much for coming. So the Wall of Fame. The idea behind the Wall of Fame was we had a conversation in our groups about this whole idea of Africans being new people in Ireland, Africans being a certain kind of people. They walk in this area, they walk in that area. And we thought that stereotype doesn't really work. Like Africans are everywhere. Being men, they're cool, they're clean, we do everything. So we thought, why don't we have a wall where we can show that Africans are just ordinary people like everybody else. So that's how we created the wall. So yeah, we have a few people there. We have a professor of Black Studies from Trinity College. We have Professor Layinka here. I myself, I work in a primary school as a teacher's assistant. We have our politicians here. We love them. And we have so many other people who do so many amazing things in different areas. So today you will expect to have all of us that are on the wall standing up here and just sharing with everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. And just to add to that, we sent out the nomination form, and these are by nominations, not by selection. And I need to tell you that we had, not a lot of people, but limited time. We just have to keep it to this number. We're very sure by next year we might go to 500, because everyone here needs to be on that wall. And I'm looking forward to that, to see everyone here, and even those that are not here, to be all over the world, all over the streets in Ireland, celebrating Black professionals. Our contributions in Ireland is so remarkable and very significant. So you are special, and we are so proud of you. Thank you very much. So on that note, we're going to invite, if you know you are on the wall, I don't need to mention it, but I can mention it. Please stand up and let the DJ give us some music to celebrate them and come off stage. And we want everyone in the audience to also celebrate them. Up on the stage, the presenter, okay, you just going to change the music now. Okay. If you are like today, celebrate Evelyn Ohio. Where's Evelyn? Evelyn? You are here? and to all Jam, Carly and the banana bread, we have Aya there on the t-shirts, and we have Ola on the African foods over there. I want to say a big shout out to all the different groups who have been part of it. But before we do the final, so I'm just going to come back in 2 minutes to say final goodbye. But before we do that, I'm going to get Jude. So Jude, I can see your hand connecting with your mouth. But Jude is the youngest Black and Irish person we know in Ireland. So he's going to come and greet us and come and just, for 3 minutes, I'll put it on the clock because Jude is like me.
Hello, my name is Jude. I was born about 83 years ago in Ireland. I was asked to talk about what it's like growing up as a young person. I still think I'm young. But anyway, around the time I was born, it was rare to see even a black person in this country. Only a few people were here, were just students, lawyers, studying to be lawyers or medicine. So anybody born here was very rare. And I remember as a young child, if I went into a shop in the country, I could have about 20 kids outside just to look at me and to wonder if I could speak English. And when they'd ask me something, I'd answer them back in Irish, and they'd be shocked. So I used to have a bit of fun like that with them as a youngster. And the people of Africa needed to be converted, and that they were pagans, and they needed religion brought to them. And you had these terrible things where you saw stupid boxes with pennies for the black babies, and they'd be nodding when you put the pennies in the boxes. And I found that a bit insulting. But as we went on in my young life, I began to be aware more of the real history of some of Africa and some of America. And I was appalled at the idea of slavery and civil rights and the same situation now in the 60s. Now I would be in the teenage days and early 20s in the 60s. Now in the 60s to me was the big change in the whole world, because the African nations were demanding their freedom, the civil rights was beginning to get going, the anti-apartheid was getting going. There was a big revolution in the 60s. And the young generation were saying to the old generation, we're not accepting any of these things anymore. Now, you know the history of the civil rights, the way they beat them down just when they wanted equality. So I got involved with the anti-apartheid movement that was founded in the late 60s, because I felt I should be marching with them. And as a result of that, I was glad to see that eventually we won out in the days. Now, during the anti-apartheid, I had the privilege of meeting Bishop Tutu, and later on when Nelson Mandela got the freedom of the city, I was a guest at the Mansion House where he made the acceptance speech. And I had the privilege of being in the door when he gave his speech to both houses of the Oireachtas. And one of the funniest incidents I had at that, I was up in the visitors gallery, and the ANC delegation came along and shook my hands. Then Dick Spring was then the foreign minister, and he introduced Nelson Mandela to me. In the meantime, Dick Spring's wife is American, and she came up to the visitors gallery and she shook my hands, and she said to me, "Welcome to Ireland." I felt like saying, I should be welcoming you to Ireland. You're American. So that was one of the funny incidents that happened. Now, as we moved along, of course, everything wasn't rosy in this country. So during that time, people spoke to me about the problems arising of racism in Ireland. Now, we talked to the TDs about this problem, and of course they said this thing couldn't happen in Ireland. This is Ireland, not England or America. And we said, you better wake up and smell the roses. So we got a movement going of multicultural people, because they're surely. So we presented a dossier in '89, and as a result of that, the Minister Ray Burke made the first move to bring in laws of equality and incitement to hatred. And as a result of that, the first minister ever appointed for law and equality was Mervyn Taylor in the 90s. So that was the first great move we did dealing with racism. Since then, we moved on. We didn't get everything we wanted, but we moved on since. And in the meantime, I spoke to Lesan and a few others that there was a great Irish Afro people who were born here who'd never had the privilege of meeting the actual Africans, even though we were of African descent. But we were like two groups, male twain should meet. So he suggested that I meet them. And as a result of that, we linked up with some of the African groups, and I'm still involved ever since those days. And I'm delighted that the Irish-born of Irish descent now have no problem sitting in with the actual born people from Africa. So that was a great move. Because we were like, as if we did nothing to do with Africa yet. We didn't know that much. But since then, I've had the privilege of going to Africa. My first time ever was to Tanzania. I came over here to learn from them, not to exploit them. So that was my experience. And then after that, projects in Rwanda and Zambia. And there's a school there with my name on it somewhere. Also, I'm a chairperson of the Irish Mixed Race Association, and I'm still in that position to this day. I think that's all I could say. Who's taking over? Tell you one or two jokes. One or few things, yeah. Of course, you know, because of me, I get people asking me, how long are you in this country? And I say, only about 83 years. Now, the other one is, when they ask you to go back to your own country, ask them, could they give you the taxi fare to go home? But the other thing I'd like to say is, Ireland is now part of a multicultural world, and from what I can see, the more multicultural the world is, the better for everyone, and will stop all this fighting and stupid confrontation. The world is getting smaller, the world belongs to one. Well, no, I can talk about, I met some of these great people. I said, you
all made it here, and thank you for staying all the way to the end. We really appreciate you. Thank you for making the launch of Black History Month happen. And I want to say thank you to a couple of people, PayPal, DKIT, Trinity College, where we went and did some talks.
the Institute of Anti-Racism and Black Studies, the Unforgettable Women's Network. So say thank you for supporting us. We want to say thank you to all our partners. Again, I don't know if you know what we did, but what I did 3 years ago was that, this is not a one-person show. So about 20 Black-led organizations. I invited them again, and we got together on the WhatsApp and we said, let's try and launch our Black. We've been having Black History Month, so this is not the first time, but we said let's try and launch the month of activities. Let's all come together, have one activity, and then after that, so there are going to be loads of activities round about the place. But we wanted to all come together and celebrate together. There's unity, and the theme for this year is unity in diversity. So again, it's about constantly looking for ways where we can work together, where we can come together, and that's what we try to do again this year. So for the rest of the month of October, there's going to be activities everywhere. For those of you in Tala, I will be in the Tala Library on the 18th, where we'll be talking about the book with 2 other authors. For those of you who follow me online, so all the Thursdays of this month, I will be on Zoom, and we'll be having crazy conversations. So next Thursday, we'll be asking the questions, are Black people Black, and should we call them Black? So that's the question next Thursday on Zoom. So look for me on LinkedIn. I advertise everything on LinkedIn. And so that's what we're going to have for the month of October. So there are different companies, different organizations are going to have different events. Now my head is blank, but all the 20 different groups, Black and Irish, Army, Akidra, IDPAD, yes, IDPAD supported us as well. Who else? Evelyn Mamayo, Eya Lawani, Winifred Akinyemi Ikine, Dr. Robert, thank you so much, Violet Komelafe, again, all of us, Dr. Jennifer OKK, all of us were on the Zoom link, meeting once every week, trying to put this together. So again, this is not one person's effort. Carlin Thompson, for all your efforts, and if you've not had Carlin's and banana bread, you'll miss it. So thank you all so much. If I missed out anybody, we love you. And particularly from Dice in Maynooth University, she's there. But thank you for your support as well. So we want to say a big thank you. See you next year. Remember the first Saturday of October. Just know that there's a Black History Month event happening. Look for us somewhere online. Happy Black History Month, everybody!